Good afternoon all.
Okay.
And thank you, SSAI, for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences and learning throughout our experience. So we have with us our doctor. We are hearing everything about the prevention or safety within the hospital building, which I feel we have to also see while doing the inception of the design. So we call as safety in design. So while designing the hospital or any kind of facility, we mainly focus on the passive fire system because that is the most efficient which we can see nowadays. We have lack of it. As Mr. Jha said, it can be easily done in the green field project, but not in the brown field. But what I have seen around the different countries, even in brown field, when we are going through check, we actually scan the building and do some kind of simulation and CFD modeling for that particular operation theatre or the ICU, so that we can also procure those kind of facility in case of emergency. So that is the one measure which we can take in the brown field, which we have. So first of all, I would like to give the opportunity, give us some. As we see the Apollo building is most safe I have. Beside the Apollo, so I can see there are proper plant in the hospital to take care of the earthquake, etc. And also see the facility, all kind of fire measure, and see you have also a helipad in case of emergency, but I didn't see it. So can you give us a little brief what can the most critical area which we are talking about, OTs and ICUs, how can we prevent or how can we protect even the inception?
Thank you, FSAI, for having me here today. It's a very important subject that we're discussing. As we know, hospitals are critical facilities to begin with. They have vulnerable patients, they have vulnerable populations of different age groups, from the newborn to the elderly to the end of life, and that presents a range of complexities. Within that, we have areas like OTs and ICUs. And if you see it in like any OT, even if it is not a super specialty OT, it is like a mini hospital on its own. It has its own storage, it has its own dedicated infrastructure, manpower, so on and so forth. And typically by design, they are made so that it has the least access of normal footfall or normal population accessing OTs or ICUs for infection control and for a whole variety of other reasons. That adds a second dimension of a design challenge. That I want to, when I am designing my facility, want to make it as remote as possible so that it is away and segregated, and at the same time most accessible in case of a fire or any other disaster. That is the first challenge that is, that presents itself to administrators. The second is that because it's like a mini hospital on its own, we have a whole host of materials, we have a whole host of gases, we have a whole host of storage facilities which by their own nature are either flammable, inflammable or explosive. So that is the third dimension that is a problem. Fourth is we are seeing that there is a rise in inventory in the OTs as close as possible. So that's because a surgeon may require something immediately during a surgery. There might be a complication, so there might be requirements of extra blood units or other consumables. That means inventories, whether it is common inventory or it is a decentralized inventory of consumables and materials, is also very high, which is a fire risk because they are flammable and they can influence. So these 4 or 5 challenges present a critical issue. Lastly, which is most important, which is that the patient themselves are very critical. If you're operating or whether you're in ICU, if you're a ventilated patient and so on. So what do we do? First is a fire plan cannot just be a generalized fire plan. At our facility here in Delhi, we have actually 5 fire plans or sub plans. One is the main fire plan, then there is a fire plan for ICUs, there is a fire plan for OTs, there is a fire plan for IT services because they are servers and mostly they are unmanned and they have high air conditioning load and a challenge in terms of controlling. And fifth is the medical gases or services. So each has its own designated approach. How do we approach it in case there is a fire? First, we look at suppression. So the detection and suppression go hand in hand. How quickly are we going to respond to it? And we can come to protocols. And lastly, the most important is how good are the staff trained in those response codes? Because each person, if you see our fire plan for the OT, we have a designated role for everyone, from the anesthetist to the OT technician to the charge nurse and to security staff. Because if you don't know what you're going to do, as we know in a fire, the response rate needs to be very quick, and if your role is not designated, you will invariably fumble. And how quickly can you get a patient first secure off lines or stitched up and then move can be a matter of just minutes if the training goes well. So those are some of the components that we look at both from the design perspective, intervention and response.
Thank you. Sir, for you, as we heard, lots of the fire happened in the hospital or any